Hello, and welcome to the Cargill Community Kitchen. My name is Meryl Fury, host of Plant Curious. Today, we are making something called a hot mess. I got this recipe off of Guy Fieri's Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. Little bit tweaked so that it's meatless. It features jackfruit, which a lot of people are experimenting with these days. We load it into a baked sweet potato, seasoned nicely with barbacoa, and topped with coleslaw. You're gonna like this one. We'll start out by putting it in the blender. We need to make the barbacoa sauce, which is a sort of Mexican Tex-Mex take on barbecue sauce. We use a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of lime juice, a little bit of veggie broth, and some chipotles in adobo that gives it a nice kick. For spices, we'll be using cumin powdered, Mexican oregano, chili powder, minced garlic, 3 bay leaves, black pepper, and some salt. We'll blend that all up. And we're going to use that to season the jackfruit. Jackfruit is really very soft. It's not quite at all, really, the same texture as meat, but it does do a nice job doubling for like a pulled pork or a pulled chicken. You can see how it's kind of got layers. You know, it comes apart in pieces. So we're gonna drain this into the bowl with a colander. Jackfruit comes in, you can get it 2 different ways, maybe even more than that. For cooking purposes, we either use canned in brine, which is young green jackfruit. Looks like that. Oops. And we also have fresh jackfruit. Fresh jackfruit is just here for you to see it today. We're not going to cook with this. But the interesting thing about this is, in the fresh jackfruit, I tend to eat the yellow part, which is fruit. It's sweeter, different texture, but for cooking, we use this one, the young green jackfruit. Okay, let me get the stove set up, and I'll be right back. All right, so now we're gonna get the jackfruit ready. Jackfruit, like I said, has a little bit softer texture than like a pulled pork or a pulled chicken. So if you're trying to imitate that texture, you have to work it a little bit. First, we're gonna cook it on top of a flame, on top of a stove, and then we're gonna bake it with the barbacoa sauce. So really, very little oil is needed here. That's one of the things about plant-based cooking that people could get more used to, is using very little oil. Oil is considered a highly processed ingredient, and for some people it does not work well at all. So we're gonna start, we have a little bit of olive oil in the pan, extra virgin olive oil. Pan is up to temperature, and we're just gonna put the jackfruit in. The jackfruit I've already shredded, and I may be taking pieces out and cutting them up smaller. So literally, you can plant-based anything, anything. You can find a way to make it with plants. Well, maybe not a prime rib, but for most stuff, you can find a way to make it work. So we're just gonna let this cook down a bit and dry out. That's kind of the goal here. After we get this cooked down, we're gonna put it in the oven for a little bit for it to dry out. can see the jackfruit shreds up. But there are some firm, solid pieces that kind of need to be cut. You can pull them apart, pull apart the jackfruit with forks. That works too. Now our barbacoa mixture, the sauce, has pepper and salt and a lot of nice seasonings on the Mexican end of the spectrum. Comino or cumin, Mexican oregano. So this is going to be very, very flavorful. Jackfruit does shrink down a bit, like so many other things when you cook it. As the water evaporates, it shrinks. And I'm going to put just a little bit of the sauce into the pan. Just a little bit. Because being that we're in the library, I love making the whole library smell like whatever we're cooking. Yeah, that's it, that's it. That's great. So like I said, plant-based cooking spans the spectrum and it spans the globe. Most countries actually are not meat-centered the way the westernized world is. This eating of meat 3 times a day, 4 times a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks is not the way for, it's not the way of most of the world. That is something peculiar to Western diets. And when we have exported our diets to other countries, that's what they take on, heavy meat consumption. Heavy meat consumption. Now, I'm going to get a little scientific with you because I am a nurse and I think it's important to understand some of the history and the science behind it. But heavy meat consumption is associated all the time with increased issues with diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, cancers, autoimmune diseases, chronic illnesses, and acute illnesses. Those are considered diseases of affluence. Only rich people have those diseases in most of the world, right? So for instance, right now in India, they're having a terrible time with the pandemic, fighting the pandemic. And it is the areas that is having the worst impact are in the rich areas, in the cities, where people are eating a high meat diet. People who live on the outskirts, people who are not well off, people who are still living on traditional Indian chickpeas and rice and, you know, eggplant and tomatoes and things like that are not having serious impacts with the virus. It's very interesting. All right. So this is looking great, smelling great. Some clove in there and the chili powder and the onion and the garlic. Actually, no onion, just garlic. Wow, that is smelling beautiful. All right, we're gonna take this out of the pan and put it in the oven and let it cook a little bit more. And when it's done, we'll pull it out and load up the sweet potatoes. This also gets a coleslaw that goes on top of it, which I'll be making. The original recipe, like I said, came from a Guy Fieri episode that I watched, and I just plant-based the whole thing. It called for sour cream and cheese and butter, and it was like a heart attack waiting to happen, which I don't, I can't do that as a nurse. I can't load that into people. But this is a good double for that. Okay, so I'm gonna put this onto this baking pan now so that it can go into the oven. We'll put it in the oven at about 350 till it caramelizes. spread it out. So you see how the texture is a little bit like a pulled chicken or a pulled pork? It's really amazing. And what we're gonna do, now you'll notice that's on top of a piece of parchment paper. It keeps you from having to deal with the pan getting so messy. Makes it a little bit easier to clean up. Wow, it smells great. Beautiful, beautiful. Oops. Okay, we're gonna mix that around a little bit. And we're going to put it in the oven. While it's in the oven, we'll make the coleslaw. And when we're all done with that, we'll put it together. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. The jackfruit barbacoa is out of the oven. Our sweet potatoes are hot and ready, and our coleslaw is ready to go too. We're going to start making these hot mess sweet potatoes. We'll plate them just like this. The potatoes have already been cut open lengthwise. And we're just going to load them up. The barbacoa goes right inside. These potatoes have been baked to perfection, super soft, like velvet. Load them up like that. Then we'll take a little bit of the coleslaw. And there it is, your hot mess. I'm gonna try it. Wow. That's it. Good stuff. Got the tang from the coleslaw, going with these velvety, soft, and sweet potatoes. And then the jackfruit is just right there. Little bit of heat. Okay, let me try that again. My goodness. Just a little bit. Yep, that works. Good stuff. Try this recipe. Please comment down below. Let us know what you found, what you did, any twists or changes that you made. We'll love to hear from you. Enjoy.